The buffers should not be numbered. They should know how to use a buffer. So we want to see a shine nail. We don't want to see a heavy grit buffer being used on the natural nail.
Just me again. Some of them have been, we've been just using a regular glove that we use in our school.
Uh-huh.
But I've noticed some of them go and get those kitchen.
Either one. The kitchen ones are a heavier duty rubber, and if they are filing too rough, it's going to cut the glove. So the nails that you, or the gloves that you would use in the salon are probably a little bit thinner. If they're filing and they do cut the mannequin, they'll be marked off for filing safely. So if you choose to, they hold up well, but the other ones hold up well too. So sometimes they double them up as well, so you could use two. Okay? Yes.
Does it matter to turn the nail upside down or not?
The question is, before you bring your mannequin,
Right.
should they cut the well off? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, or to turn it upside down.
Yeah. A lot of students, when they bring those nails that have the points down at the bottom, they can't polish that, so they get marked off for polishing. So if they have that, flip it over, trim it off, and then apply the nail. They can use any nails, but if you send them with polished nails, it's going to eat up their time removing that polish. So it's easier for your student to concentrate on what they're being graded on, not what they're not being grading on.
In order to prevent the file cutting into the clubs, can we file the corner, the sharp corner before, or we can file at while we're doing it?
Yeah, you can pre-cut your mannequin's fingernails.
I'm talking about the file, the corner, the four corners.
Yeah,
the
you can
sharp
file
corner.
them.
Okay.
They just have to change the length and change the shape while they're there. Okay? Any other questions regarding the manicure?
Okay, I want to make sure I understand this. So do they have two towels down? You'd like them to have two towels down. What I'm getting to is that you're saying like throwing one towel away after they file, they soak, clean that up and everything, and then they bring it out, they blot that off, and then you want them to get rid of that towel before they do the massage? Or
If
what do
it's soiled, they need to dispose of it.
you mean like if it's a little wet or something when they dried it off?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, and then you want an extra towel.
They
for
don't
them
have
if
to
they-
have a towel laid down, but if you choose to, that's okay too. I'm not going to tell you how many towels you need, but what I'm saying is anytime you use something,
Has to go.
it needs to be disposed of. Mm-hmm.
And they can't wipe their hands on the towel. You said they should have an extra towel too if they need to wipe something off of their hands.
You don't want to teach them to have towels stored on top of their station. They'll be marked off for infection control for that. But if they need a towel, they can get in and out of their drawer as much as they
Okay,
need to.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay?
Once they do the massage, do they need to do effleurage, petrissage to permanent friction on
They
the
need-
hand?
On the task lines, it says palms, fingers, and back of hand. They need to use continuous contact, and then they need to remove it from the entire nail. So they need to do the palms, fingers, and back of hand. That's what they're being graded on. Any other questions regarding the facial manicure?
Okay, we're going to go over the theory examination. We have recently started to reference from the newer versions of the Milady and the Salon Fundamental books. So the Salon Fundamentals would be 2011, and Milady would be the 2012 version. The examiners have been going through all of the questions that have been presented on the exam over the past year and have re-referenced everything in the newer versions of the books. So beginning January 1st of 2013, all of the questions on the test will be referenced out of these new books. Also, beginning January 1st, we will have, our questions will have been evaluated. Within our testing system, we are able to pull reports on individual test questions, individual categories, and different things of that nature. So what we have been busy doing is going over every test question that has been presented on the exam for the year beginning September 1st, 2011 through current, and evaluating how that question has performed. We are able to see if a question is performing really poorly, meaning, if it was presented 200 times, 150 people answered it incorrectly, or if it was presented 200 times, 150 people answered it correctly. So we're able to evaluate each individual question. Students have had the capacity of making comments on any question throughout the exam. So any comments that have been made on a question, we pull those and evaluate the comments that have been made. And then we are making either polling questions that are performing poorly, meaning that they have not been answered correctly enough times. So those questions would go out of circulation, and then new questions would be circulated back into that category. We have an area called the pilot section. So on the categories that are listed on a student's score report, you will see pilot question. And those are 10 questions that are in the pilot stage, meaning they're questions that are currently being evaluated. So they're being presented on the exams, and then we are able to see how they perform before we actually put them into circulation for the point calculation. Those 10 pilot questions do not receive a point value. So all theory tests consist of 110 multiple choice questions, and 10 of those are in the pilot stage, and they're not included in the scoring. So questions are 110 questions. Students are actually being scored on 100 of those 110 questions. And then those 10 pilot questions, once we see how those perform, we are able to, when we need to remove a question for poor performance, we have questions that are already available to put in to that circulation, and we already know how they are performing. All candidates receive 90 minutes to complete any of the theory examinations. And then on the manager's exam, it's a 50-question test, and candidates receive 60 minutes. Candidate assistance. Students on an IEP or other type of education plan can have the following accommodations. Extended time. So it is a 30-minute additional time for any student that's on an IEP. And then the test is automated via the computer. So headsets are provided for those candidates that require reading assistance. So instead of the day where we would take a candidate, into a room and read to them individually, or with a group, pull an examiner and have a group of candidates to read, they have a headset, and Mr. Tracus has read all the questions. It does not sound automated. It sounds like a live person reading, and they are able to replay the question as many times as they would like. So they would receive their additional 30 minutes, and then they are able to have a headset, and they are able to have the questions automated for them. Also for students, if you have students that are hearing impaired, an IEP, or not an IEP, but what is that form? The ADA form, I'm sorry, could not think of the name of the form. The ADA form would need to be completed, and we would provide an interpreter for the hearing impaired student. In the past, the interpreter has not been permitted to go into the theory examination portion of the test, but recently we have modified that policy, and interpreters are actually permitted into the theory portion of the examination for hearing impaired students who also have IEPs. Okay, are there some questions? You need to complete and submit the ADA form along with the exam application. So on file at your school, you would have the IEP information or whatever type of educational plan the student is on. You would need to keep that on file at your school in the student's record. And then we do not want that information. We simply want the ADA form stating that the student needs these accommodations and that you have that information on file at the school.
I have a student who has paperwork from an IEP from when she was a junior in high school. Now she's 20 years old. Does that still count?
That is fine as long as you have it on file.
Has problems understanding the test, or is it just everything's just written in English, language barriers?
Yeah, there is no accommodation for language barrier in the examination. The exam is presented in English, and we do not allow assistance for understanding of the language.
For the reference of the textbooks, of which books that the test questions come from?
Yes,
Are all of the questions found in both textbooks, or is it just that they're in one or the other?
no, all the questions are referenced from both the Milady and the Salon Fundamentals textbook. The reference may not be, it's not going to be a word-for-word question out of either one of the books, but you will be able to find the content in both books for there to be a question presented on the exam.
The students that have IEP and hearing disabled, is their interpreter going to be provided by state board, or do they need to bring their own?
No, interpreter is provided by state board.
I have some students that are actually in their 40s and 50s prior to IEPs and 401s. They were in like special ed. What kind of documentation should I provide?
They can
for
get
them?
documentation from a physician, and you can have that on file and complete the ADA form. Okay, theory test. Oh, go ahead. Another question?
The questions that you guys throw out because of bad performance, will those ever be presented like through email or something?
No.
Okay.
We do not, we do not circulate any of the test questions, so they will just disappear from the exam. They're archived in our system. They just will not be presented any longer in the test. No. The question is about the 7 sets of questions, and that was for the manager's exam that used to be presented on our website. And no, we no longer have that. Since we started the new test, those are not listed on our website any longer. No, that has totally changed. The TIP for the manager's test, that's the subject areas that are tested on. Now, the test questions that used to be on the website were in reference to the Ohio Revised Code and the Administrative Code. And we do have questions on that, but we do not put those questions on our website any longer. So the theory of the manager's test regarding, they still need to know the laws and the rules, so they should still be reviewing the entire content that would have to do with, salons, management, testing, and anything of that nature. From your textbooks would be the management portion and the business skills, but then you can go to our website, and there's the laws and the rules section on the website, so there will be test questions from those sections. Yes, if a student asks us for headphones and they do not have an IEP, we would allow them to have those headphones, but they are not permitted to have any additional time.
They can't.
Well, okay, I haven't. Okay, I was getting ready to go through those. Nail tech 79, skincare is 70, and pilot 77. Okay, you're welcome.
Sorry. On the TIP, if you go to your webpage, which
Uh-huh.
I have,
Yes.
and put in the TIP for people, some ones that has to go back for 75 more hours
Okay.
if they have flunked. Anyways, on there, I see a paying website to, you know, how you can take tests?
No, that would not be connected directly from our website.
No, okay.
No, we have no tests out there that are like practice exams or anything of that
There is
nature.
none.
No,
Okay.
no. No, it was through NIC. They had their own NIC, but there was a lot of differences because even with NIC, we had Ohio-specific things in our examination, so those were still a little different.
I do have one quick question. If you have aesthetics-only students or nail technician-only students, and they're taking the manager's portion, do they have to get a hold of a cosmetology book in order to know what's on the manager's test?
No.
Or it's in the, is it in the back of the
Yeah,
aesthetics book too?
the TIP for the manager's test for nail technicians or estheticians or, any of those two groups is actually referenced from the Nail Tech Milady and the Nail Tech Salon Fundamental or the aesthetics versions. Okay, theory test statistics. So what we have up here are the subject area for each of the sections on the cosmetology exam. So principles of infection. These are questions that are presented, and like I said, this has been over the last year, and this is how that area has performed. So principles of infection, 78%, and this is passing, so this would be 78% correct. Chemical procedures and practices is 78%. Hair care procedures and practices, 81%. Trichology, 76%. Electricity and chemistry, 67%. Anatomy is 69%. Nail care, 79%. Skin care, 70%. And our pilot questions, 77%. So as you can see from this list, a couple of the areas, chemistry and electricity and anatomy and skincare in the cosmetology theory test are the low performing areas of this exam. Yes. Well, the statistics are different because NIC did not, they didn't have the exact same subject areas. So there's some differences with that. In the nail care, they didn't have it broken out with anatomy and broken out with electricity and chemistry. So we've broken it out a little bit further. As far as nail care and skin care goes, it's always been a lower performing area. Even with NIC theory test, it did perform lower. And then like with the other areas, it wasn't broken out quite so specifically.
What about the overall first-time fail rate? That's where we struggle. We went from a 98, 99% school first time to our first-time pass rate has dropped significantly since we changed the test.
We're lower. So do you say the first-time pass rate for the new test were lower? Yes. Pretty much, we did look at those statistics, and there was a drop fairly, I would say, across the board on percentages with the new exam. And partially that has to do with the NIC test. Like I said, we broke things out a little more specifically, and we have more questions in anatomy, more things in electricity and chemistry and trichology, more definitions. There are things that are definitely different. So, it's really a matter of getting accustomed to what was being presented on the new exam. And it's a very comprehensive test. So really just teaching the cosmetology material as you would teach, to make them a well-rounded cosmetology student. Everything that we have on the test should encompass that. So you shouldn't have to teach specifically to this theory test. These are touching on things that just in their general cosmetology curriculum they should be learning. And that's why we evaluate the questions, and things that are not going that way are taken out of the exam, and things will be added in that would make it, bring that up again.
If you have a 75-hour student that has to get more continuing hours, continuing education, how does that work? So do we need to have a separate instructor for that? Do we need,
Yeah.
can they be part of the whole classroom again, set in that classroom? How do we customize that to best benefit those students? I'm a little confused when we're
Okay,
doing that.
for students who need to receive their 75 additional hours, it can be different whether it's in practical or for the theory portion. So for the theory portion, if it is your student that has previously went to your school, you would not need to re-enroll them, but you would, however, need to place that student on the S1 report. And you would code it as an AE, an additional education student, because they would need additional education. There's also on our website under additional education applications, there's an application for each branch. So there would be one for cosmetology. You would document those hours just as you would with an original cosmetology student. There's a second page for documentation of hours. Schools, the schools that we have spoken with, many of them are doing this in a different way. It really depends on how you run your school, how you bring students in and out of the school. So it's completely up to the school to be able to design this, however it fits best for your situation. Some students are put in, they have the breakdown that they bring from State Board that shows their low points in their theory test. And some schools kind of customize it to those areas where they know that they need assistance. They put them in theory classrooms if it's something that touches on something they need assistance with. Some of them have instructors that help them one-on-one. It depends on the school. The practical, it would be the same way.
Okay, so when you're tracking those 75 hours and your inspectors come in to inspect our files, what are they looking for in those files?
You would still document they would clock in and out just like, any other student until they get to the 75 hours. They would be looking for them to be on your S1 report. And then, that would be, and then, once that's complete, you submit their paperwork. Okay. Also, if you have a student that comes to your school for additional education, but they had not previously been your student, you do have to enroll them, and they do need to be placed on the S1 report. Although what you do need to keep in mind is that failed score or that poor rate is not going to go against your school. They will keep their original school code attached to that student. And we've made this policy change in order to encourage more schools into helping the students. It is in our rules that students will have to return to school. They cannot come and retake an examination after they failed 3 times until they've obtained these additional hours. And there are some schools that take them back and do everything that they can to help them. And then we receive lots of phone calls from other students and I've spoken with other schools where they don't have anything in place yet, or they do not have any policy on this. So, and then on the other hand, there's students who maybe do not want to go back to their original school for whatever the circumstance may be. So we have made a policy that if you do take a student that was not originally enrolled in your school, that rate that will stay attached to their original school code. So it will not affect your pass-fail rate as far as State Board is concerned. And we really hope that this will help encourage schools to help out some of the students, because we also have out-of-state students that did not ever originally go to school in Ohio, and they fail the exam, and they do need to obtain this additional education in Ohio. So we really are hopeful and trying to encourage schools to open your arms, open your doors, and try to come up with something that works for your school. It's your policies, but that can also help to try to accommodate some of these students.
So they've done the 75 hours. So they have to do that after they failed it twice?
3 times.
3 times.
After
so
3
then
times.
they come in for the 75 hours. They go back to take the test again. They fail the test again. What's going on? What are we doing there? Then
They have 3 more chances again to pass.
And then?
They would have to take 75 additional hours again.
Okay.
We haven't seen that happen yet. Thank goodness.
I'm just wondering because they're asking us that when
Yeah.
they're in there.
Yeah. So once they fail 3 times, they have to take their hours. They get an additional, after they complete those hours, they get an additional 3 times.
Now, if you get a student that was at a different school, you said that their previous school would be attached to that student. Now, when they pass the test after coming to our school, do we get their grade for passing, or does their grade for passing go to the previous school?
You are going to, it's going to be on your report. If you get a report, it's going to be on there because it's going to, so you can see how they did. But their total record, as far as like when we're calculating pass fail rates, it's going to stay with that original school.
Are there certain guidelines on as far as do we charge a student if we're taking them in? If we're taking a student in from another school to help them pass boards, is it up to the discretion of the owner of the school to charge accordingly, or?
Yeah, that's up totally up to the school what you charge.
So there's no guidelines on
No,
anything like that?
no, that's not up to us. That's up to the school.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Lori, the 75 hours is not absolute. If correct, if a school makes an assessment of that student coming back after failing 3 times, and it may have been some time since they took their last failed test, that the school can make an assessment, and if you feel it's going to take 100 or 150 hours, you can actually bring them back for more hours than that, because the whole point of this is so that they pass the test the next time. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. If a school evaluates a student that comes back for 75 hours and your determination is, you're going to need 125 hours to really thoroughly understand this, as obviously as long as the student's made aware of the situation, that's absolutely fine.
We can put those 75 hours in either theory or practical.
It depends on what they fail. If it's because they have failed the practical, then all 75 need to be in practical, and the same with theory. If it's because of a failed theory, then all 75 need to be in theory.
Do they have a specific amount of time to get this back to school, to get this 75 hours, or a specific amount of time to get the 75 hours in?
Okay, well, that goes back to the old 5-year rule. So from the time that a student enters into the, cosmetology school, they have 5 years to complete the program and obtain their licensure before their hours start to expire. So if they're getting close to that, then that would start kicking in. Okay, any other questions on theory exams? Yes, right here. Joan. Okay. Okay.
If a student just finished their cause program and they would like to take their manager's test and their cause test on the same day, are they able to get a work permit to take them all the way to their manager's test?
I'm sorry, repeat that. So they're going to take
They want to take them both on the same day.
their managers, their cosmetology, practical theory, and their managers?
Right.
Yeah, they would, when that application is submitted for that test, they would, and they're applying for a work permit, they would receive a work permit for all, it would be for everything up to that point. Their work permit would get them to the point of taking the exam.
But I cannot apply for their manager's test until they finish that program. They would like to have a work permit while they're in the manager's program.
But, okay, so they've already completed their basic program. Well, once they've completed, but you're not sending in their application until
Right.
then. No, they would have to have completed the manager's program prior to being able to receive a work permit with that particular portion on there. But you could submit their application for their basic, get a test date for that. That would give them a work permit. Only up to that test date, though.
Right.
So, I mean, we don't extend work permits past the test date. So
Right.
I don't know, and then you could send the managers in at a later time. So that's a little trickier.
Right.
But
And I didn't know if things had changed
No.
since you had allowed them to take them both on the same day. I thought, because the students were asking, and I thought, well, maybe they have made arrangements for a
No.
situation like that.
No.
Because they would love to work while they're in the manager's program.
Right. And like I said, they could have it for the basic. You could get that set, but then it really would hinder them taking that probably on the same day because that might get a little confusing. Yes. They can intern at more than one salon. They do, or the school and the student, you do need to submit paperwork indicating each of the salons that the students will be working at. It's 10 hours now. Well, you can get instructional hours for up to 10 hours a day. Also with the internship, it's very important that when that paperwork is submitted, everything is on our website at this time. It's really important that the name of the salon and the salon ID number is correct. It's important that the person, the licensee that the student is going to be interning under, that their name and their license ID number is correct. Because when that information comes in, the person that is processing the internship badges is going to be checking the status of the salon, meaning that the salon does not have any administrative actions against them, no pending violations or things of that nature. Also, they're going to be checking the status of the licensee, making sure that they do not have any pending violations against them and that they have a managing license or 5 years experience. So also, one internship student per licensee, so at the same time. So if you have a licensee in a salon and you have 5 girls that are going to go in and work under that person, they cannot be scheduled to work at the same time.
There it goes. All right, it took me a second to do the math. Do you, and I understand working very hard to work on our state board policies and how we're making sure that our students are actually passing the test. Do you
It is not of all 17,000 people that have taken it, as 76. No, those statistics were broken down for each section. This is for every category. These are individual categories of the test. The overall pass rate, practical, and I don't have it right here in front of me. I can look at
each section and multiplied the percentage into how many questions in the section, and the average comes out to 76.
Right, but when you take it from, but this test is taken from, this statistics are from each category, but when it's, the test is an overall percentage. So you're going to get a different percentage when you take somebody that just, say somebody received an 80 on the test. I think it was for practical cosmetology, and I can look this up at lunch because I believe I have it back at the office. It was, it's 90-some% for private schools. Mr. Yearwood, do you have that documentation still on you? Okay. It was like 90-some% for practical, very similar for the career tech. And then with the theory, I believe it was like maybe 81% for the theory. And like I said, it really goes back to the fact that we've added more content into the theory exam. With the NIC test, the theory test was many questions based on procedures for each thing. So for example, about haircutting, they would have a lot of procedure questions about a haircut. Or in the chemical wave, it would be a lot of procedure questions. And we have taken the exam and made it more comprehensive as far as the other things, you know, with the anatomy, with the electricity, the chemistry, the trichology, things that are across the board that all the cosmetologists need to know. We've just added these theories, you know, into the exam.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My question is that if I have a cosmetologist who is licensed in manicuring, my understanding is I cannot put her on a client because she's already licensed. Is that right?
So she's licensed as a nail tech and she's taking the cosmetology program.
Right.
So they've transferred their hours from their nail tech license to the cosmetology program.
Yes, ma'am.
So you would not be actually, since they transferred their 200 hours, if it's 200 hours that your school accepted,
Right.
then and the nail tech portion of that curriculum is just about that. So she really wouldn't be needing any of the nail tech information. So those hours would be like when you do your breakdown for the student, she would already have her nail hours.
Right, but she still has to take that portion of the test.
But she still has to take the portion of the test. So, you know, you most definitely can have the student do things to make sure that they understand, you know, the portion of the test, but that person should not be asked to do more, like just because we've ran into some issues with, because they have a nail tech license and they want to use them on the clinic floor to do the nail customers because they're, you know, obviously they're very good at that. They already know that portion. So that you would not be permitted to do. You have to distribute those clients, you know, equally, but you would have to make sure that that student is not receiving, you know, an exuberant amount of hours in that nail portion because you've already transferred 200 of those hours in.
whatsoever.
You could minimally. If you're just saying because this is going to be for a basic manicure, because in the cosmetology exam the only thing that's tested on is the basic manicure. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question. You have a student in the cosmetology program, and they decide that they want to go into the managing side of it to get the additional 300 hours. Are they permitted to go ahead and take the nail tech portion of that exam or portion of that program for their manager's program as far as for cosmetology?
Okay, so they're in a cosmetology program?
Yeah, they're almost close to completing the cosmetology program, but they want the managing portion of that. Could they go into the nail tech?
Managers?
Managers.
No.
No,
No, they would
cannot.
have to take the 300 managing hours that's associated with cosmetology.
Cosmetology. Okay,
Yes.
all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is it necessary for a licensed cosmetologist to retest if they're coming back for a manicurist program?
So they're licensed as a cosmetologist, and they're coming to school for
nails.
For nails. Well, once they have a cosmetology license, and if they come, you can't hold a cosmetology license and a nail tech license simultaneously. Okay. So they cannot hold both. You can hold a cosmetology license and an aesthetics license. So really, they could come and they could get the education if they're wanting to really just do nails and they want more of that education, but they can do that under their cosmetology licensure. Or they would have to give up, that would have to become inoperative and they would become a nail tech. Yes. No, because you would not have a managing license at that time. Okay, board policies. Oh, is there another question?
Would you go over that and clarify that again? If they have a full cos license and they want to come for either aesthetics or nails, now some of the cos hours transfers over to that program, but they can't actually hold both licenses. Is that correct?
That's correct. So if they have a nail tech license and they're wanting to go back to school for a full cosmetology license, you can transfer hours, give them credit for the nail tech portion of hours, but once they come and test, their nail tech license would become inoperative and they would have a cosmetology license.
Okay.
Exactly. Okay, board policies. All board examination policies are stated in the information packet, the TIP. So on our website, we do have the testing information packet. And like was stated earlier, that is no longer mailed out with the test date information. So students are required, or schools can go on and get this for them, but they would have to go on and print off the testing information packets themselves instead of us mailing those out with that test date. All of the exam policies are listed. Everything about the manufacturer's labeling is listed on there. Our talking policies, no texting policies, all that information is listed on the testing information packet. We do have a no smoking policy on our premises. This did start last year, so just to reiterate this, there is no smoking outside of the State Board building or on the adjacent properties. If candidates are going to smoke, then they have to do that in their private vehicles. Photo identification requirements. So candidates are required when they come for testing to bring their State Board stamped and sealed and board approved ID picture. And then they also need some type of a current valid picture ID, a driver's license, their green card, or anything that shows a valid form of ID. And it has to have a picture on it, and it cannot be expired. We still do fingerprinting, and candidates, though, at this time are required. Our new fingerprinting machine requires 4 prints instead of 2, so they are asked to be fingerprinting thumb. It'll be these 4, not the pinky. So it'll be all 4, but the pinky finger will be used in the fingerprinting process. Okay, candidate examination dress code. Starting January 1st, we are going to be implementing the new the dress code for candidates. It actually is not new. It's actually already been stated in our Ohio administrative code, and I'm going to go over that specifically in just a second. I think it's on the next page. We do have designated parking areas now for convenience of the candidates. When you come into our parking lot, there are some signs indicating candidate parking or guest parking to the front of the building. And we have some designations for bus parking. So buses have some clear areas to park, and then some employee parking, just to kind of give some guidelines for the candidates when they do come into the building. Okay, our candidate dress code. This you would find under our Ohio Administrative Code, and that is also on our website, and it's 4713-5-27. It's under sanitation. So students are going to be required to wear professional clothing at all times when scheduled to take the state board exam. They're required to wear a clean outer garment and closed-toed shoes. That is also going to be required. A clean outer garment is going to be like their smock, something of that nature. So something over top, an apron, smock, something of that nature. Students wearing shorts, mini skirts, tank tops, halter tops, midriff type tops, t-shirts with graphics unrelated to a school or salon, or torn or tattered clothing shall not be admitted to the test center. Students not admitted to the test center shall be dismissed, required to reschedule for the state exam, and will be required to pay a reschedule fee. So it's going to be very important starting in January that students come properly dressed, that they wear a smock. They can wear an apron. However, with certain shirts and things of that nature, you know, if it's a smock, it covers more, so that may be the best option. This will begin January 1st. This will be and is actually going to be probably tomorrow out on our website. It has already been added to the testing information packets, and starting next week, it will be added to when the candidates receive a test date in the mail. It will be added to that page as well. And like I said, January 1st, when we start up for exams again after a short break at Christmas where we have no exams scheduled, this policy will go into effect. Yes? It isn't okay, if they have a uniform, no, they have to have it on. So even if they have on a uniform, they're going to have on a smock or an apron. Yes. Yes. Oh, yeah, good point. In the past, there's been some people or some schools where the students have covered their name or the name of their school in tape, so we couldn't see it. That is not necessary to have them cover that. Oh, I'm sorry. Absolutely. Yeah. What they wear in the school is absolutely up to you. What your dress code is there is up to you, as long as it's, you know, following these guidelines, because it also states that schools must follow the sanitation statutes and rules governing. So, you know, you would have to be in compliance with that. They wear a clean outer garment and clean shoes while attending school. So it does not, but they have to wear closed-toed shoes at this time, starting in January. I will tell you that, like Mr. Tracus had stated earlier, there's, you know, some revisions out there with all of our codes, and I have placed a revision on some of this, so this is going to be altered a little bit, but when it starts up in January, it will be as it is stated right now.
In school, but not at the exam.
Right. So as it's in A, all schools must follow all the sanitation statutes and rules governing beauty salons, except that, well, the waste containers used in schools do not be covered. All students shall wear clean outer garments and clean shoes while attending school and comply with all those rules, schools' rules regarding sanitation and attire. Any other questions?
Does it matter if the smock or apron has pockets on it?
Has what?
Pockets?
I'm sorry, say it one more.
Pockets?
No, that's fine. Obviously, most of them do. We will still have the same procedure. When they go down to the computer lab, they will be asked to take those smocks off because they are not allowed to wear that to the theory lab because of the pockets. So they should still be appropriately dressed underneath the smock. Okay, yes.
So on the step number 1 under B, it does say closed-toed shoes. So schools don't have to wear closed-toed shoes anymore. Is that what you're telling me?
No.
Wow.
Exactly. Schools do not have to wear closed-toed shoes. Yeah, that's your school policy. And if it is your policy, then that's fine.
Oh, I have a question about hair clips.
Yes.
When they're doing their chemicals.
Okay.
Where do you want them to put the hair clips? Not on their person, but what about on the...
On their station?
On the cape? Can they clip them onto the cape?
No, they should lay them on their station.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, like I had stated earlier, since Ms. Tyler is now out doing inspections and a lot of her duties have been transferred over to the examination team, everybody does have a contact. And so this is a list of schools, and your contact person is listed at the top. Chris, our newest addition to the exam team, will be taking over his listing of schools on probably the 1st of October. So you will be receiving an email from Ms. Lee and giving you new contact information for Chris when that change takes place. Okay, so at this time, I'm going to leave the contact information up. We will, in just a minute, let me break for lunch. We will, when we return from lunch, we are going to be going over the aesthetics exam, the nail technician exam, and the natural hairstyling exam. So we'll be covering those areas. For those of you that do not offer those programs at your school, and if you do not feel that you need to come back to hear those programs, that is fine. Everybody else will be covering those. We will be expecting everybody to be back from lunch at 1:15. We're going to start with the nail technician exam, and then we will move into the aesthetic exam. And then if we have any schools that offer the natural hair program, that will be the last session that we will have after aesthetics. Okay? Ms. Lee?
All right. This is our nail technician. The verbal instructions are as follows. Following all infection control and safety guidelines, you will now set up all supplies that you will use throughout your exam. Nail liquid must be odor-free. Using a nail liquid with an odor will result in your dismissal from this exam. This procedure is 15 minutes, and we'll let you know when you have 10 and 5 minutes remaining. Setup and client protection. Disinfect work area. Disposal of all soiled materials. Sanitize hands. All sanitizers and disinfectant displays manufacturer's label in English. All manicure products supplies labeled in English. Implements, tools are visibly clean. Follows all infection control guidelines. Maintain work area in a safe manner. This is your basic the basic manicure is the same as the basic in the cosmetology program, so we will not go over this again. Are there any questions on anything that I just went over? Okay.
Bless you. Bless you again.
Okay, welcome back from lunch, everybody. Let's try to stay awake, okay? Okay, I'm going to be going over the nail tip. This is your verbal instructions. You will now perform the nail tip procedure of this exam. You will apply a nail tip to the index finger. This procedure is 20 minutes, and you will be informed when you have 10 and 5 minutes remaining. Again, this is the nail tip. It's 20 minutes. All nail tip products and supplies are labeled in English. Implements and tools are visibly clean. The shine is removed from the nail plate. Nail dehydrator or cleanser is applied to the nail plate. Uses nail adhesive to attach the nail tip to the nail plate. Half of the nail plate remains uncovered. The nail tip is safely trimmed to desired length. Shapes the free edge, and I'm going to add safely. They need to hold those sidewalls down from underneath the finger. Blends the tip to the natural nail plate, Surrounding skin is free from adhesive. The nail plate and nail tip are the same width. Finished tip is smooth and even. Disposes of soiled materials.